my 20th year. I'm a new guy. Well, I got started in 1971, believe it or not, and I'm still playing with the original drummer, Roger Earl. And I came in about the mid-80s to give you the cliff notes of my career here. I started playing professionally in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania in the early 70s, the normal club work that every working musician goes through. And ended up in a band called Wild Cherry. So we had a pretty big hit right out of the blocks. Actually, it was my very first professional recording studio session. And record in 6 months went to #1. I was like, oh, this music business thing's pretty easy. Meanwhile, 40 years later, I'm still trying to hit the charts. It was one of those lucky things, and they got me on my path playing professionally. I'm here on behalf of Diamond Guitars, and for Jason's grand opening here. Brand new brand, and I'm an old dog. I've been playing the same guitar for, essentially the last 15, 20 years of my career. I've got to play Schecter PT, which is a tele-based guitar. Dennis, our artist rep for this new company, brought these guitars out to our gig about a month or so ago. And I must say, for me personally, to change a guitar so suddenly to another act than this one, besides the spectacular look, I get asked about it almost every show now, like, what guitar is that? What is that thing? It looks so cool, Sort of reminds me of an old Gibson Modern and a little bit of a Firebird. But the thing that hit me right off with this guitar was just the way that the neck feels and plays. Some of the guitars these days, take them off the wall, frets aren't dressed properly, they're sort of scratcher figures, I mean, I can pick a guitar off the wall, not even play it really, just put my hand up and down the neck and go, nah, put it back. These things, like I said, outside of having very unusual looks, they just play fantastic and they sound great. I don't know if you heard me noodling there, but, and this is my new favorite amp too. This is the first time I ever played through this thing, like an hour ago. So that's on my wish list right now. Because it's a really nice foot switchable amp. And between that and a guitar like this, the variety of sounds are pretty much endless and cover everything that I need to cover. So I'm a basic blues rock guitar player. I came up with the British Invasion guys, Clapton, Page, like so many guitar players my age did. And so I stole all their licks. And for all you, how many people here are players? How many people are guitar players by? There I am. Well, so then, you all have your favorite players that you listen to. So many great players out there now, and depending on your age, who your heroes are, mine go up to about Eddie Van Halen and stop, and then, but I'm listening to Pat Metheny, I'm listening to all these new guys that are jazz hybrid players. And so if you're a real young player, I'd say learn as much as you can when you're young, because at least from my experience, when you hit a certain age, your style solidifies, and you appreciate other players. You don't necessarily absorb their ability to play or their the way they think. Robin Ford, I'm a real fan of like the blues players that have a little bit of jazz influence. Larry Carlton, Robin Ford, and I try to steal some of their licks. But for me in particular, I'm just a blues rock guitar player, and I happened to find the perfect band when I met Foghat. And that's a funny story. Have you guys heard of Pat Travers, the guitar player Pat Travers? I was, after Wild Cherry, and such a great experience for me as a 20-year-old, we toured with some of the greatest R&B bands going. We toured with Jackson 5 before they broke up, Earth, Wind and Fire, the Commodores, Average White Band. So many great live bands back then. And so, I was in heaven. And but after that band sort of, we had one big hit, we're sort of a one-hit wonder. And we did 3 or 4 albums, and I became a studio musician, moved to Florida and worked as a recording engineer for nearly 15 years. I had a blues quartet in Orlando, Florida, and Pat Travers brought Lonesome Dave to see my band. And we played these very obscure blues. We were a blues studio, so we specialized in Louisiana artists,
and what they would call swamp rock or swamp blues. Lightning Slim, Lazy Lester, you know, all these really obscure people. Lonesome Dave, being the blues aficionado that he was, he had thousands of blues records that he collected in England, and he was a big fan. So we hit it off as fast friends, and over the course of a couple years, I ended up touring with him in the 80s. And let me wrap it up. It's about 1992. The original guitar player, Rod Price, came out of retirement, and I had just finished a European tour with Molly Hatchet, and so I joined them for 7 years and did 3 albums in the Southern rock style. So between the funk and the blues and Southern rock, you know, that's what formed my style. And so just to maybe give you a little bit of indication of how I play, I'm a pentatonic blues player mostly, you know. So that's all 5-note pentatonic scale stuff. I'm about as jazzy as I get as I go a little Dorian every once in a while. Which is just your pentatonic scale with the addition of 2 notes. And when you hit the Southern rock world, what you get introduced to, and really Duane Allman was a huge influence on that style of my playing, you start getting into this major third action where you hear. So you start hitting this third note in here. So the combination of that with the blues pentatonic scale sort of gives you almost the whole basis of the southern rock blues influence sound. It came in very handy with my playing with Molly Hatchet. Another thing that was very interesting about that band was all the guitar harmony parts. So it was a very structured band in a lot of ways. I mean, there was 3 guitars at some points, you know, all playing different counterpoints. A lot of memorized solos and very long passages, not unlike, say, a Freebird style song. You know, Hatchet had several like that. So that really formed my style. But to get back to the this guitar, like I said, I very rarely found a guitar. I played a Les Paul for a long time, switched to Fender for a little while. This guitar is a hybrid. It has Seymour Duncan pickups that were specially designed for this company. And they're a little hot. They're hotter than a normal, say, PAF style pickup. But they have a great tone. This is the treble pickup. Here's the rhythm pickup. And it'll also go split coil, so you can, you get your bell tones. And that's on this, actually on the distorted channel of this amp. And so let me hit the clean channel. Is my voice clear? I sound like I'm in a box up here. So this is it on a totally clean channel. Being a Wild Cherry, although I played that with a Strat, you can almost get there with this guitar. it gets pretty stratty, you know, for a double humbucker axe. Jason, can I have an amp? Pretty versatile, and if you want to go like, so it has that real sweet neck tone too. So a pretty outstanding guitar, I think. As a guitar player, when you pick up a guitar, I'm sure any of you that play know, when you pick up the one, you go, oh man, I gotta have it. Here goes my next car payment. You know, and I have, this is so funny, the guitar I played for so many years needed a fret job, so I took it in to get fixed. I have like literally 40 guitars in my studio, and I was like, I didn't know which one to play, and I picked up like 10 of them. I was like, oh, man, this is crazy, you know. So I reconditioned it, one of my backup tellies, and I used it for a week or two. And then when my main one came back, I was like, oh, thank God, and I got it back. And when Dennis brought me this guitar, and our lead singer, Charlie Hume, who is, used to sing with Ted Nugent, Humble Pie, and is a guitar collector, vintage guitar collector of some note. He's playing the, I forget the model number. Dennis, help me on that one. But it's the Les Paul. In fact, this model right here is the one Charlie selected. And he switched to it immediately too. And we went right to Germany, didn't bring any backups, and we just dove in head first with these new guitars. And literally, every show I've played since then, we try to do autograph signings after every show. And so meet and talk to people. At least 2 or 3 people come up and go, what is that guitar you're playing? So what it is a Diamond. It's a brand new brand. I was introduced to it by my friend Dennis, and Jason is big rep here for it. And also Diamond Amps, I believe the company started in Texas as amp builders. And same with this guitar, very rarely do I plug into an amp and just like in literally 15 minutes get a sound that I like. That thing dialed right up, so I'm gonna have to start talking that thing up too once I get one. Unfortunately, the way that we travel, we fly everywhere, so I'm always on what I call Forrest Gump backline. I never know what I'm gonna get. So I've settled on Marshall 900s. That's what I play and have been playing for some years. And I like them. They're very, same thing. You can turn them on, almost all of them have a very similar sound, so I don't have to worry too much of getting my tone, as long as the tubes are well maintained. And I basically do this. I hit a note, I go, the amp, but when it starts feeding back, then I stop. But you can hear the sustain this guitar has, and the combination. That's basically the sound I look like when I get into any sound check. You know, I'll say, okay, I ask my guitar tech, Mark, you know, how am I sounding today? He goes, I think it's pretty good. You know, they usually have 2 or 3 heads. They all sound slightly different. But that's how I check my amp. You know, I hit either a G or an A, because I use those sustain notes in various Foghat songs. But that's exactly the sound I'm looking for. So I know that when I go into my solo modes in any song, I'm going to have the tone that I want. So here you go. It's called the Hailfire. And what the other thing, they're Korean-built guitars, but I've tried several of the different brands, Greg Bennett's, Samick's, that were built in Korea. All very nice playing guitars. They all seem to play very well in tune, but they always lack a certain something. And this guitar, whoever's, you know, in charge of the quality control of these and production, or whether they're setting them up here again when they get to America, I'm not quite sure of that, but the necks on these things are fabulous. And so that's, I'm going to conclude with that, saying this, I'm going to be playing this for the rest of the year and probably the next couple of years. And the way that we travel, you know, we call them all flying dates. I get to bring 2 guitars. I play slide about 50% of the set in Foghat, and I haven't transitioned to the Diamond brand yet for slide, although I messed around with this one slide. It's, you know, that's a matter of action. And well, since I play a lot of slide, maybe you guys like to hear a little bit about my slide technique. All right, so let me grab that thing.
I don't know. We're only
I wonder why I got these extra wires hanging out into my wireless system. I have to stick them in my pocket. So as I was telling you, I met Lonesome Dave through Pat Travers, and I was a blues session player. Played a little bit of slide. When Lonesome Dave asked me to join his band, he goes, well, you do play slide, right? And I was like, oh yeah, every day. And, you know, Rod Price, the original Foghat slide player, so unique, so powerful. And he was my master class. I actually played with him for a year. We played as a 5-piece band. I was the 5th wheel on the Cadillac because they didn't need me, but Dave was nice enough not to fire me. So, and Ron didn't want to tour that much, but we did a really nice European tour, and he liked that. So I got to know him well and study his technique. So, but anyhow, slide, rock slide in particular. You know, you listen to a lot of guys. Some of my favorites, of course, Dwayne, Lowell George, Little Feat. Warren Haynes is great. Derek Trucks is ridiculous. Really great. You know, I recorded him in my studio, speaking of Derek, when he was 10 years old. He came from Montora, Florida. My studio was in Sanford, Florida, literally right next door. Us being a blues studio, his dad was sort of his manager and brought him in. A little kid, about this big blonde hair, about as tall as his SG, literally. You know. He sat up on his super reverb amp, and I was recording an album by Alex Taylor, who's James Taylor's older brother, who was a blues singer. And I said, well, yeah, let's do some tracks. And then he started playing. At 10 years old, he was like, I got like goose flesh. I was like, who's your dad? You know, blonde hair, play slide exactly like Dwayne Allman. I don't know. But you know, he was a child prodigy. He was a child prodigy, and continues to be, in my estimation, the best slide player in the world. So, but anyhow, the way I play, which I stole from, that's about 500. lot of strat, clean. A lot of guys, you know, they play with very little muting, you know. That's not my pick. It's my friend's pick. He just gave it to me. It's too late. So, you know, when you play that style, Bonnie Raitt, another fabulous slide player, they're playing with a lot of compression, very clean, and generally Fender sounds, and that's a very, you know, beautiful sound. Ry Cooder plays that kind of style. Now for rock slide, muting with your every finger that doesn't have a slide on it is pretty much the thing that you want to do. These fingers here are your back fingers, in my case the pinky, and then almost every finger other than the pick finger. Otherwise you get all these overtones. You know, you can hear all this noise. So playing slide, and particularly fog hat material, you do this, it's almost like Keith Richards too does it a lot, but we play an open E tuning, which is basically an E chord on your guitar. So I understood why Keith could play so good drunk, because he only need one finger. You know, let it be known that I think he's the greatest rhythm guitar player in the world, so I don't say that disparagingly. But I play an open E, and he generally plays an open G. Now G is a basic open G chord, and Johnny Winters plays a lot in open A, which is an A chord. And what you'll find if you mess around with slide is almost all the licks that you do in open E. So this little thing here is used in almost every, you know. So what happens when you go to open G, almost all your licks shift down one string, and you can play almost the same exact thing, except me playing on the G, B, and D string there. If you're an open G or open A tuning, you can play that same lick on the B, E, and G string. And it's just funny how it works out. And this figure is actually on, in a different key, of course, but it's actually on the B and E string, because your high E would be, and the G tuning, it's tuned to a fifth, so you get your seventh note up top, where I get my seventh note here on the B string. So it's just a weird thing about open tunings, you know. And, so you can learn a technique in one tuning, and it does. Open E tuning movements do translate to G and A. You know, you just have to move around according to your key. But a lot of those kind of moves still exist. So slide's fascinating. There's so many different things. There's first of all the finger that you use, which affects everything. Rod Price played with and Bonnie Raitt, and a lot of slide players play with this on your second finger. And when I tried that for a while, I couldn't make this 4 chord, which is in every Foghat song. And that's in every Stone song too, that he plays an open G, is that one 4 figure. And any of you Keith fans will know that he plays a 5 string, and the reason he does that is when you tune to open G, he takes the low E string off, because that becomes a D, which is not a good note to have on the bottom of a chord. So that's why he just takes it off, so that the A string is now the root note of the tuning. because, so he has G, G, D, G, B, D. So it's like he doesn't use the low E string at all. So. Whereas I use it all the time. Hurts Me Too, that's a Foghat blues song, an old blues song, done rocked up a little bit. And getting back to the second finger thing, it really affects your vibrato is what I come to find out. So. If you ever listen to Rod Price's original recordings, his vibrato is so wide, it's like, he can't hit a bad note because he hits like all of them, it's like, it's very wild, and that's a thing so that's my vibrato in a second, and here it is on the third. It's just a little less, a little less wild, but I sounded more like Rod playing slide on my second finger. But I couldn't make the 4 chords, so I compromised and I played a little bit. And a lot of people would go third. And a lot of blues guys use the pinky, so but the guys that play with the pinky use very little muting. George Thorogood, we do a lot of shows with him, and he's funny. He goes, "You can play better than me, but just don't look better than me." I'm like, okay, no problem there. Johnny Winter, pinky player. I mean, and when you listen to Johnny Winter, he has that rapid fire thing, and there's no dead notes in there. It's all. Not too bad. I might try that on some song. But you don't get that open sound when you have other fingers dragging around. So I don't know what it is, but all 3 fingers have a different sound to it, to my ear anyhow. And see what else? Okay, so then you got materials. Glass, steel, ceramic, bone, they all have a different tone. This is actually, if you want to check it out, I can show it to you later. This is actually stone made on a stone lathe. I'm endorsed by a company called the Rocky Mountain Slide Company. And they make ceramics, was where they started. They're like pottery, they're made out of clay, glazed, and baked. And they sound like brass, but they're lighter and they have this odd texture, so you get all these little pinging harmonic-y things going on that really sound great, especially through a really loud amp. You get these cool harmonics you never expect. He sent me this thing, and this is made out of jasper, some kind of granite, and it's my new favorite. It doesn't have as much. It has more drag on it than say a glaze or a glass. I quit glass because they were, especially through a loud Marshall, they were very squeaky. You always heard this. It's like ee ee ee. squeaky thing, it drove me nuts. Whereas, yes, there's not a lot of real high-end squeak with this, or the ceramic. Brass I like, they were real heavy though, brass slides. And I found that because I play with a slightly low action, they would cut into my frets. So I was having to get my frets filed like every 2 or 3 months. Not that you use them a lot, you know, on slide, but I didn't like my guitar getting torn up by them. So anyway, this is my new favorite. So that's pretty much the left hand issues. You know, pick your finger, pick your weapon, and depending on your style, you know, how much you want to mute with this hand has a lot to do with it. Right hand is, the more I play, you'll notice some of the best slide players in the world don't even use a pick, they're playing with their fingers. Derek Trucks, for instance. You know. So I've got into a hybrid thing, almost like a Merle Travis, you know, claw. So I almost play the top 3 strings with these fingers, and I play the bottom 3 with a pick. You know? And I use this finger primarily. I do a lot of octaves as well and use like a little cloth. So I almost play exclusively the high E string with flesh, you know, and because it gets a little pingy for me. I don't know if you can really hear it that much, but doesn't sound too. I love this amp. I'm like going nuts here now. Like, can I have this? This guitar is like, I just had it a week. The airline broke my other one in half 2 weeks ago. The one I played for the last 10 years. And Gibson was kind enough to send me this one, but so I'm sort of getting used to it. It's a little thinner sounding than my other one, but when you, and the other thing I do, pretty much anything above the 12th fret, I switch to the rhythm pickup. So that's sort of much my outlook on slide. And like I said, I do a lot of muting. So anytime I'm playing anything up here, I'm almost always have my palm across all the strings. And it's almost like, you know, you play a string and then when you play the next one, you mute the one you just played. Between my palm and my thumb pad and whatever fingers are laying around, you just want to quiet everything out. Like I said, it's not so important in clean blues slide, but it's really important when you're playing loud rock and roll. And really, the other thing about slide, it took me about 7 or 8 years before I could really listen to myself and take it, because intonation is so important. I mean, there's nothing sounds better than a really in-tune slide. Once again, Derek Trucks being a perfect example of that. That guy plays some amazing licks and hardly ever plays a sour note. You know, he's just brilliant at note placement and accuracy. And so that's the thing I strive for more than anything. I mean, it's fun to play slide, but it's sort of nerve-wracking because you're always, especially if you're not quite in an acoustic environment where you're feeling comfortable, you tense up a little bit, and then you tend to play flat, which really sounds bad. When you're trying to do that, and you end up going. I try not to do it. It's bad. But anyhow, it took a long time for it, and I think anybody that tries to master the slide or mess around with it, that's going to be your main priority. First of all, is intonation. And I know guys, I have friends of mine, blues guys, that just rip, and George Thorogood too. He's like, what? He just played naturally in tune. From the first time he played, I heard him play slide. And he plays that Muddy Waters style, and he plays like with reckless abandon, and always sounds in tune. So I don't know, maybe it's just me. I had a little problem. I had a problem with it. And Rod Price's slide playing was note specific. It wasn't really straight blues or just straight across. He was playing very, very melodic line. So he's playing notes, solos that have very distinct note patterns and not just, ripping blues stuff. Like the Stone Blue and those solos are difficult. Because, that's an F minor solo and you're playing an E major. So you're tuned to E major, so you're trying to play in a minor key, which, so you have this major note in here, when really, say, F sharp. You can't play that note, you have to play this note. That's pretty much it for my slide technique. And as this, you can tell by any Stones hit, messing around with open tunings, particularly for songwriting, is a real eye-opener, a real creative inspiration. You can just sit down and start strumming. You'll find, these finger positions and chord structures you won't even think about on a regular tuned guitar. So you start playing things you would never really normally play on a regular guitar tuned up. And if you want to write a Stones hit, open G. So I see there's a few more people here than when we started, so I'm going to go back and talk a little bit more about the diamond guitar, and then we're going to have a jam session. So.